Hey folks, welcome back. So this week we are doing a little bit of fencing over in the hayfield that we were in earlier this year. Now at the end of the week after we got done recording all this stuff, I found that I really hadn't done a whole lot of the explanation of the what's, whys, where's, all that sort of stuff along with the video. So I'm going to be watching this along with you guys and adding a little bit of commentary as we're going along explaining what we're doing. So for starters, right down near the gate where you would enter into this hayfield, there is a very, very large dead ash tree, and it's down over the bank of the creek, and so we really can't get to it safely to try and cut the whole thing out. But there were some large branches that were hanging out over where the fence and the new gate and all that stuff's going to be. So we decided to try and rip some of these things out of there. Now they were a bit higher up than what the skid steer could reach up and grab to pull out. So we got a couple tow straps, got those up around it, and hooked that to the 784 and pulled those, and we're able to get those ripped out of the way. That way those aren't going to fall down on top of our nice new fence here in the coming years. So with the branches out of the way, the first step in building a new stretch of fence is to get your braces in. So this first brace is right there where we were pulling the branches out, and we quickly found out that there is a lot of rock in this area, and we're going to find that out even worse later on in this video. So we're trying to get this first post in here for the brace post, and we'd get it in maybe 1.5 feet, and we got to get these things in 3 feet. It's an 8-foot long post. You put it in the ground 3 feet, and you got 5 feet above the ground, and we're only getting it in like half as far as we need to be getting it. So I mean, all you can really do is pull it out, move it over, and try driving it again. And I think for this one post, we ended up doing it like 6 times before we finally got it in into a place where we could get it down as far as it needed to be. And in this little clip right here, you can see all of the holes that were made from driving the post in, pulling it back out, and then its final spot where we ended up being able to get it in. So after we got the braces at both ends of this one stretch, we were able to string the top wire along through there. And I'd already gone through and put little spray paint marks on the ground where each one of the posts would go. And then at this point what I could do is, this is a 600-foot long run. So at the 300-foot mark, the wire was maybe 6 inches off of the ground just because it's got some sag in it because it's such a long stretch. So we came through and we put the very center post in first. And then once we got that in, what we could do is take that wire, hook it up at the 48-inch mark where it's supposed to be, and then that would get the rest of it up higher, and then that allows me to be able to have something to see where the post is in this direction. So if it's leaning side to side this way, that's pretty easy to tell. I've got a little chain that hangs down on the post driver, so that lets me have a plumb line to be able to line it up this way, but you really can't tell in this direction. So if I get that top wire across there, if I know where the bottom's going, which I've got it a little spray paint dot there, I can put the bottom of the post on the spray paint dot, and then I can get that post so it's just touching on that wire, and then drive it in, and it makes it a little bit easier for putting those line posts in. Now, it's at this point, after we got this first one stapled up there, that I happened to look down in the direction of the gate for the hayfield and realized that the cattle had also discovered that this gate was open, and we had a few of them trying to come in there. So quickly headed down that direction and got them back out of there, got the gate shut, and then as we needed another line post, I figured might as well bring one of those back with me. Now, of course, anytime that you do a nice long straight run on flat ground, once you get them all your line posts in there, you've got to go back and get on the end of it and look down there and see if your posts are all lined up. And these lined up pretty good. There was a couple that were just a little bit out, but for the most part, it turned out pretty well. Alright, well, I had to go work on a couple other things for a little while, but my dad stuck around and he worked on getting all of the most of the wires strung here. So what I'm going to work on now here this evening is getting these last little bits right in here, which are going to go from our end brace to where our tensioner is going to be. So we got all of our ends right over here. So I've just got to run, I think 5 more little stretches right through here, get them connected up and tightened up, and this section will be, I think, more or less done. So one kind of cool thing with this little time lapse here of getting these last little bits of the fence connected up and tensioned is that if I play it forward fast enough, you can actually see that in brace post moving in just a little bit as those wires get tightened up. And it's actually a really good example of why you build these braces the way that you do. Because if you think about it, the wires are pulling this post in, and then you've got your cross piece up here, and so that's trying to push out kind of parallel to the ground, because you've got your other brace post. If I can get my other side, here we go, in frame. They're trying to push them like this. Now, if you don't get your wire going the correct way, which you can see going diagonal across there, then your brace is just going to fall over. Because if it's built right, as this post is trying to come in a little bit, it's actually trying to pull your brace wire apart. So it's putting tension on that, and that is what's keeping your whole brace from just collapsing over sideways from the huge amount of tension that's on it from having, I think it's 6 strands of high tensile fence pulling on it. So the first section of fence that we did is kind of on the entrance side of the hayfield, and now we're moving down to the far end of it. It's sort of still in the same line, but we're actually putting a break in the fence here, because that way if we need to get into this exclusion area that's beside the creek, because it is fairly flat in there, if we want to get in there to clear out any autumn olive or anything like that, we're still able to access this area. So we've got a break in the fence, and then this last section, the tree line kind of curves out a little bit as it comes around to the property line. And so the original idea was that we would curve the fence along through there and have this nice arc along through there, which would make it really easy for mowing along and stuff like that. But as I kind of mentioned earlier in the video, we ran into some more issues with driving the post in, or maybe not driving the post in through here. Now, as you can see, we've already got the first brace up here, and then originally the next post that we put in was just a line post. So it's a smaller diameter one. It's a 7-foot post. It's 2 foot in the ground, 5 foot out, and really it's just there to kind of space the wires apart. There isn't any side-to-side tension on it or anything. There's no pressures in that direction. And then what we're going to do is put in a couple of corner posts. And what that is, it's a larger diameter post. It's 8 feet long. It's actually driven 4 feet into the ground, and then you got, of course, 4 foot out of the ground. In addition to that, you need, I think it's 4 inches of lean to it, so 1 inch per foot that's out of the ground, so 4 inches total of lean, so that it's leaning into your corner. That way, as your fence is trying to pull it out, it's kind of able to counteract that. Now, once we started trying to do this, we found that it was going to be much easier said than done. And while I didn't take any video of all the holes that we put in the ground where we drove the post in, got it in 2.5, 3 feet, and it wouldn't go any further, and we had to pull it back out again, there was probably a dozen or so down through here. Needless to say, it did not go very well. Now, originally we were going to have like 2 or 3 of these corner posts, I think 2, and all we ever managed to get in was 1. And actually the one that we did get in was where this one line post that you can see here is in. So we were trying up further to put in the corner and just couldn't get it. So eventually we came back to where we'd gotten the line post in, pulled that one out, and then put in a leaning corner post in at that point. And then still tried getting in one more further down here where you're seeing now, and tried all over the place and could not get it down far enough that it would work. It's possible that this could actually be like old creek bed through here, because it's hard telling where the creek has kind of meandered over the past however many thousands of years. So it's possible that where we're at putting this fence in could have been the creek at some point, because for several of the holes that we put in there, I reached down to the bottom and you could feel a lot of rock down there, and you know, anything golf ball size, stuff like that. So we were getting into a lot of rock. Tried even putting points on the post, because for the most part we haven't really had any need to do that. Tried putting points on, and it didn't do any good. But there was definitely some sort of a layer down there that we were running into that wasn't letting us get in that last foot and a half. So eventually, after numerous attempts, we just eventually said, you know what, we're just going to take it straight over from this one corner post. We're going to get our maximum of our 20-degree angle off from that, and just take it straight from that right over to the property line. And in here, it actually looks like we're cutting off quite a lot of pasture there. It's not that much really, but it definitely looks worse. Looks worse here in the video than it actually was. Most of this is also under the tree line as well, so the little bit of grass that does grow in there really isn't all that great a quality, so it's not really cutting off much of anything that's worth a whole lot to have kept in the pasture side of things. So then once we got our brace in there at the far end right along the property line, we were able to string some more lines, the ratchets in, get all those tensioned up, and that for the most part completed that section of the exclusion fence along the creek. Now for this gap that we left here so that we could access the exclusion area, what we did is we just put in a 16-foot stock panel in there, because stock panels cost about $20 or $30, and a 16-foot gate costs $200+ right now. So for as little as I'll probably be needing to get in there to do any sort of clearing, any sort of maintenance stuff, stock panel's gonna be just fine, I think, for that. I'll run like a single strand of electric across through there, and that'll keep cattle from pushing against it and knocking that out. And I think that should be fine. Might have to run 2 of them across there just to get one low enough for any calves or anything like that to keep them from trying to rub up against it. I didn't show putting that in there, but that's what's filling in that gap to keep stuff out. So that is what all we got done for this week for putting in fence. The next step, of course, is to get in a new gate down at the end of the hayfield. Now, of course, this is all going to happen next week, but that should be a bit of an interesting project, because there's probably a couple feet of slope across where the gate is, so we're going to have to do some grading in there, figure out how the brace is going in. The gate ended up being further into the hayfield than what we were originally planning, so we got to figure out how the fence that's going up the hill is going to be angled and how that's going to tie in and all that sort of stuff. So I have no idea how far we're going to get with this project for next week, but at least on my end of things, it should be kind of interesting to try and figure out how this is all going to work. So I think that I've ran my mouth enough for one video, so that is going to do it for this time. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time.